And for that, I'm going to call on stage our session chair, Mr. Rohan Padi, Partner Advisory at KPMG, and joining him are Shraddha Ukalkar, CIO Benz, India, and Vinod Sivarama Krishnan, CDIO Essar. Let's welcome the gentleman and the lady on stage. Please join us. Welcome, ma'am. Please. Over to you, Rohan. Please.
Okay, a very warm welcome to the esteemed audience. As it was just pointed out, the session today, right now, we'll talk about cultivating a culture of ingenuity. And I think talking about ingenuity and innovation, there is never a wrong time. Specifically today, when the business and operating models of companies continue to get disrupted with both different kinds of headwinds and tailwinds, innovation is something which could potentially make them stand out, specifically in the light of the rapid advancements of technology and also the global interconnectedness that we are seeing happening over the past few years. With me are two of my panelists, Shraddha and Vinod. Both of them need no introduction, come with a wealth of experience and insights, which we hope to leverage in today's session. Right? One represents an automotive sector, which by definition has a lot of innovation built into it. And of course, Vinod comes from a very diversified industrial group with interests across industries. So maybe I'll set the ball rolling by delving to you, straight to you, Shraddha. So you are part of a company which I think is close to 100 years, 2 years away from the centenary celebrations. In some sense, can be regarded as a traditional company, but innovation somewhere goes hand in hand in whatever you do. So my question to you is, given that your company comes with so much of experience and in some sort of a legacy, how, as a CIO, you foster a culture of innovation in your company which allows you to perform to the maximum potential?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Shraddha. I joined Benz, where they do not need any introduction. And I'm glad that I joined this company. It's been just 6 months for me, and I'm back to India after a decade or plus. So this is really a great opportunity which Anu planned to have great connections over here. So thank you so much for inviting me here. As you said, it's a traditional company, but not the ancient one. We are the pioneers, and we believe that we are the pioneers of innovation and technology as well. So how do I cultivate the culture of innovation in my team? I start with the basics. I strongly believe the skill sets and upskilling is the key of any innovation. Without skills, you would strategically imagine the ideas, but you will fail in the execution. So that's one of the basic which we need to follow. So I do have an example. Quarterly, I sit with my team and do one of the greatest certificates available in the market to just upskill our knowledge or brush up our skills so that they stay connected with the today's world. Second, I am strongly believer of fast fail so that you learn quickly. So I don't hesitate to give the low-hanging fruit ideas to my teams and get it innovatively developed. And then if we are failed, that's fine. It's still inexpensive for me. And not last but the least, of course, any problem should have the solution. So talking with the customers and getting their first-handed problems by interviewing them, is the best way to find the right solution as well. Because they will, if you interview 100 people, will have the 100 ideas how you can solve this problem, even if they are not the technological people. So having that cross collaboration also kind of plays a vital role when we think out of the box of innovation ideas there.
I think some great insights coming from you, Shraddha. If I were to encapsulate briefly of what you mentioned, I think 3 things definitely stand out. Maybe go in the reverse order. First one, customer centricity. Innovation, I think, ultimately would fall flat if it does not solve a customer problem. I think that's a very important takeaway for all of us. Second, while there is innovation, you also need to foster that culture of living with failure, because you refer to any study. If let's say you do 7 experiments, maybe 6 of them would fail, but 1 of them could succeed beyond expectations. So maybe focus on that, harp on that, and keep plugging towards that.
And if everybody knows about Mercedes-Benz, how it started, right?
Right.
If Bertha wouldn't be taking that, her four wheels or three wheel to that 100 of miles where people are telling her, you will definitely fail, she wouldn't be having that idea and I wouldn't be sitting over here after 2 centuries probably, right? So having that culture where people are not hesitant to fail fast is what my mantra.
Absolutely. And I think the third one, possibly the most important one, stick to the basics. Don't make innovation complicated. Approach it with a clean slate. Focus on the basics. More often than not, you will, achieve the desired results. So maybe those would be three very significant takeaways for me, at least. Moving on to Vinod, right? You represent a company, as I said, which is very diverse in its portfolio of services and products. And innovation could mean different things to different units within your within this diversified group. So, as let's say a CDIO, how do you strike that balance, in terms of ensuring that innovation happens consistently across the entire organization?
First of all, thank you so much for having me, and this is a topic that is so close to my heart. So happy to share. As I dealt with this, I was trying to figure out to myself and said, who are the biggest, what is the biggest challenge to innovation in Ingenuity in the enterprise? And unfortunately, I think in great extent it is our teams. It is the CIO mandate to do things, efficiently, to demand a level of structure and clarity from business. Specifications layout, to hum banayenge, which unfortunately is the polar opposite of what you need to be doing if you want to drive ingenuity and innovation, which is let the idea come out and then work or cooperate with your stakeholders to build it. And often, our priorities being optimization of effort, limited capacity, huge pipelines, and I am absolutely sympathetic to the constraints that we have. But at the same time, when you talk about innovation, two things. One is innovation, it generally comes from the front lines. It's unlikely to come from the CXOs. Or rather the people that we work with on a day-to-day basis to try and satisfy their needs. Innovation is coming from a layer that is just close to the ground and is bound to look messy. Whenever I get an idea which comes from the field, it's a very messy idea. So the amount of work, you look at it and you think, before I can do it, there is so much I have to do. Right. And one of the ways I think, which I have seen has worked both in the past and in the future, is really to use a very TQM kind of approach, which is to take an idea incubator, is to have a pot full of these ideas, and, out of this mess, try to dredge those patterns. Yeah. Because invariably, ingenuity at the ground level doesn't come without a payback. There is something in it for somebody. Yeah. Unlike, some of the more, shall I say, political or motivated or attractive projects, generally ground level innovation is very, very, the returns are obvious. Yeah. The challenge is much more, how do you structure it and how do you actually get around to doing it? And one of the first things that I think we all learn in TQM is to accept the ideas as they are. And then, work on making sense of them really at the back end rather than demanding structure. The first thing, if you ask a shop floor guy and say, isko na aap structure karke put it down in a document and give it to me, you can guarantee you'll never hear from him again for the rest of his and your career. So I think the idea is really how do you collect it, and then what do you do with those ideas? How do you process them? How do you organize them into those buckets that you can address? Because one of my approaches has always been that when you are talking about application development, when you open the hood of the car is the time to do 10 different things. You opened it for, sorry to use an automotive analogy, but
it's totally good.
Very
we
relevant.
are popular.
When you open the hood, you have the opportunity to do 10 things. Ab aap aaye the ye karne, but since I have undertaken the heavy lifting of popping open the bonnet, I'm going to do these 5 things while I'm there. And you need to keep that pipeline which says, okay, the next time, I'm not going to do heart surgery on this guy for the purpose of doing this innovation, but the next time it is open, I'll do it. And I think these are two things. One is to accept, two is to process, and I think the third is how do you store that for the right time to do these things. Because often they are so small that you'll never have independent steam on those.
Right, absolutely. I think a great point. Maybe if I were to just give a one-line summary of what you just spoke about, while innovation is important, the ideation process is also equally important, and that should be supported or enabled through a very robust and a proper framework, right? I think great takeaway. I think staying on with you, Vinod. Innovation, the term has been, been around at least since the time I was born, which is a long time back. Now, in light of a lot of these emerging technologies, right, artificial intelligence, etc., what do you think are going to be some of the technology enablers around innovation? We hear a lot around the buzz around Gen AI, Core AI, etc., and a lot of people are still figuring out what's the difference. But keeping that aside, what do you think could be the trends in terms of technology drivers for innovation?
I will, for a minute, shelve Gen AI from this conversation
Please.
at the risk of,
Thank you so much.
But, typically there are 2-3 things that I've found. And I'm, again, going a little controversial here because, like I said previously, IT department is the biggest problem for innovation, basically, if I paraphrase that. Now I'm actually saying that typically the problem with, we all hear about citizen development. And we never actually get around to doing it for the exact same reason we don't do innovation, which is it's messy, it's dirty. But at the same time, you want to allow as much as possible people, when we talk about skunk works, when we talk about, rogue IT or shadow IT, part of the problem is really that what we're not recognizing is that you as an IT team don't have the bandwidth to do 100 things. So one of the challenges I've always dealt with is to say, look, you take it as far as you can. Don't do it in the dark, do it in the open, do it with us. Let us understand what you're trying to do and you go out and have at it. Now with the kind of tool sets you have in terms of low code, no code, it is possible to get fairly sophisticated in terms of a working prototype. Of course, when you need to connect it to something, you'll need to come back to me. But guess what? Much of the hard work is done. Much of the proof points in terms of what the benefit is and all of that is done. You don't have to rebuild that. And with the ability to take that logic back into your systems, now you've got buy-in, now you've got a substantial amount of work invested by a functional person, which means that there is a level of ownership, your change management is taken care of. These are really, it just becomes, low-hanging fruit from this mess. And I, for one, am of the belief that if you are going to give people a sandpit to play and you are watching that sandpit, then you have odds of actually being much more successful than if you forbid it and force people to swim against the current for 1 year and then, make them give up. So I think one is low code and no code is a huge thing. The second is obviously the accessibility of traditional AI and ML techniques and the availability of data. Right. You got operators who are creating data and you have somebody else sitting 200 kilometers away that's working on that data. Doesn't make any sense. Unless you get the operator into the data, you're not going to be able to identify anything out of that is meaningful to him or her. And I think, second is really how do you get analytics tools, how do you get AI models, how do you get these accessible to people who are most impacted directly by them, as opposed to do something and then one day unveil it and say, tada, I got all these dashboards for you, and find out that they don't really care about them.
I think, again, the essence of what you just mentioned, right? I think that's what even we have been hearing since a long time, that democratization of technology and its use cases across different stakeholders is something that's really going to drive, let's say, innovation going forward. And technology, in some senses, may be the biggest democratizer, if that's the point that we are trying to make. Moving on to you, Shraddha, I'll just extend on the second point that you discussed, right? So, which is fostering that culture of innovation. So, for any layman, okay, you typically would like to associate the term innovation with a startup or fintech, etc. But looking at your particular company, which has been an aspirational brand for many of us, most of us in the room, and which won't be possible without constantly innovating yourself. How do you strike that balance? Because at the end of the day, there is a P&L that the company needs to look at. We know the chances of failure are higher uh, through, let's say, different methods that you drive for innovation. But still, how do you constantly, how are you able to constantly drive that engine, knowing that in your back of my mind, the chances of failure could be quite high?
Yeah, so that's how you manage the risk, right? Any innovation comes with the risk itself. You need to have the strategies behind how your risk management metrics looks like. And you need to know why you're innovating. Only sake of innovation, you won't do the innovation. So is there a revenue impact because of this innovation? Are you saving any man hours because of this innovation? Are you enhancing the customer experience because of this innovation, right? So the right reason, why, is very important to understand whether we really want to take this innovation to the next step or level or not. As soon as you know your why, you know then how easily you're gonna do it, right? There will be 100 ways how we can manage that out. But filtering those hows, like, the simple quadrant, if how much the efforts is gonna take, how much the time is gonna take. Whatever is the lesser quadrant, you just take those innovation idea, try those out, fail fast or succeed fast, right? So that kind of the risk management metric I usually follow, and very basics. And believe me, that works because anything right now in this world has the data available. So you need not to be so much intelligent to take those decisions because you have the ancient data with you. Correct. And with my company, an example, I have the tremendous data available, like what would work, what kind of an audience I have, to whom I'm serving, what is the psyche of my audience, right? So those details are already available. So you know that, like, if you are going in the right direction with that innovation or not. So having that metric handy and having that skill set to make a right decision would land you somewhere.
Right. Again, I think the key takeaways for me, innovation needs to be backed by solid data points because that is what will tell you this way or that way. Second, having a very solid business case. You talked about, let's say, a customer benefit or some revenue potential. So that needs to be baked in very early into what the innovation objectives are. And then having appropriate toll gates through different risk matrices to be tracked and monitored to ensure that directionally you are going fine. I think, yeah, those should be in some sense the design principles that we potentially should be looking at when let's say we have innovation as one of our key themes.
One of the addition in that is in agile world,
Yeah.
there are so many agile approaches
yeah,
and the methodologies available, right? So you work in the sprints.
Right.
You make a minimal viable product or just prototype it, and you need not to work. Maybe you don't have the right team, like just Vinod said, right? You need not to do everything greenfield. Outsource that thing. There are a lot of partners sitting in here as well who are, I believe, like more intelligent and more having that background than us. Then why to hesitate? Just prototype what you want, whether it is going to work for your audience or not, and then outsource that thing.
One question maybe to both of you and not in any particular order. So innovation has to be driven from here, from people, right? And at least you said that you made a controversial comment. I'll also make a controversial comment. I don't think innovation can be done by everybody, right? It's important to identify those set of people who you think would be the best innovators for you. So how do you create that culture? Maybe a difficult question, but would love to hear a point of view.
If I can go first, Shraddha. So one of the ways in which we used to do this, and this is something I learned both from GE as well as Industry House where I worked until recently, is you have to reward ideas. And you have to reward ideas irrespective of whether you were able to commercialize them and get money out of them. Because what you want to do is really to stimulate the production of ideas. Now, and this is very interesting because we started with a metric of number of ideas. Then we found that there were people who are giving us complete crap. Sorry, excuse my French, but people were just putting in ideas there for the purpose of getting into numbers. So we said, well, we will rate this on what's different. And there are ways of coming up with this, but there is a view that if you incentivize ideation, then you stimulate ideation at a very different level. Because, I think few things motivate, especially on the shop floor or at the base of the pyramid in the organization, few things motivate like peer recognition, like recognition in front of your peers. And we found that giving awards to ideas is a huge, huge motivator. Nobody ever stopped giving an idea because, my idea is inferior to his. It was always my idea, and that level of passion, the level of attachment, CEO coming and talking about it. We couldn't do it, but what a great idea. Huge motivator. That's at least something that worked very well for us.
No, ditto what you said, but in addition to that, sometimes innovation doesn't solve a big problem, but still it's an innovative idea, right? Or it serves something which is a big problem, but still overlooked. For example, paperless, digitization. Everybody we have right now the cards. I don't have the card. I have the digital card. So I believe in that, right? So I have in my company developed my own software where in the market there might be many, but you name the country and we are there. Our footprints are there. So imagine how many paper I'm saving here, right?
Absolutely.
So having that small steps also take you to long way. And so I actually tell my team that even if you think your idea might be small or big, you don't judge it. Just put it on the table and we then take care of it, right? So reward system.
Right.
I did to that thought of Vinod.
I think great point, incentivization of, let's say, coming up with ideas, which I think it's fascinating that it still holds true 50 years after Peter Drucker had encapsulated in his so famous works. I think we are over time. It was again very engaging talking to both of you. Both of you represent two very fascinating brands, and again the insights were equal measure to that. Looking forward to a great evening as we go along, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone.